you can see all these comments.
There.
Okay, right in the bottom right corner that you're looking at. But the study came out saying that they've noticed a trend of an increase in suicide rates after the release of 13 Reasons Why, the series on Netflix about suicide and bullying and all that other stuff. But when you heard about that, Mike, what went through your mind?
So when I heard about that, what went through my mind is a few things. Is Netflix really responsible, or at the other end, should this really be something that parents and schools should be looking at? And also, as Netflix did, when I read the article, Netflix did take necessary precautions by removing certain things from, like, there's one scene they said that they removed from the first season that was a little bit too graphic. Also, it says that and Netflix, just like any other network, states before you're gonna watch something that this may have this scenes and this, that, and the third, and it's rated like this. One thing I kind of find that we put too much emphasis on is the media, networks, and stuff like that when it comes to people's health, children's mental health. And I understand that there's a responsibility because you're putting out all this information and all these scenes. But at the same time, it also stated that it showed an increase in positive searches, like how to prevent suicide. What are good suicide hotlines that you could call up? But it never asked. I never saw in the article what position do parents take? What positions do the education system take? It's easy for us to always point the finger. Yes, this show 13 Reasons increased it, but they have a responsibility to give entertainment. And their responsibility was to entertain people. And it's sad that this entertainment was through the version of either what they're saying glorifying suicide or kind of making suicide something trivial. But at the end of the day, there's the school systems, the education system, and the parents have an innate and a very important responsibility when it comes to these youth to make sure that, okay, Tommy's acting different, and the schools, well, Tommy's not performing well at school, or Tommy's become withdrawn. So I understand where they're coming and saying, well, 13 Reasons is leading to this spike. But if 13 Reasons is leading to this spike, what are you doing as parents? What are you doing in the education system to ensure that this spike gets flatlined? Because at the end of the day, what I feel is Netflix had a responsibility really to their shareholders to make sure that they're making money. And if people are clicking on there, whether it be, and it's sad to say this, and people might say, yo, Mike, you're disgusting. How can you say this? It's sad that children are pressing the button and watching 13 Reasons and having these suicidal thoughts. But as a parent, are you there monitoring what your children are watching? And you got to remember, a 16-year-old, that's still a child. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you should monitor everything a 16-year-old should be watching, but there has to be some responsibility. And that's where I also say, in terms of the education system, you're allowing children to fall through the hole where children are not being monitored. You don't know. You have how many kids in one classroom? You have so many kids that you don't even. A kid could just disappear in a high school setting, and nobody knows what's going on with this child. So, 13 Reasons. At the end of the day, the show's there, but what are the question I would ask? What are the schools, the education system, and the parents are doing to bring down this increase of suicides?
I don't know. You bring a couple of valid points. I'm not sure if I agree with them all. One of the thing is, if someone's like kind of far gone, chances are parents can't talk to them. Parents can't do anything. Like, remember when you were like 16, 18? Yo, go God, so I'm a man. My dad can't tell me shit. Right? Like, at that point, you're a teenager. You're trying to find yourself, and the last people you're gonna listen to are parents.
You have
So
your student council.
having your parents there creates even more tension internally for the kid, and even within the walls of the homes, and that spills out into public spaces like school and other places like that. These kids are looking for others like them who may understand and can relate to them. Parents in a lot of those situations could not relate to a suicidal kid or a depressed kid. Parents would be like, yo, get up, do something, right? Which doesn't help. Like the parents may not have the tools and the ability and even the skills to deal with a depressed kid or a teenager, right? And even the school system, like you said, they are some of them are even overpopulated and stressed to be able to bring them to pay attention to every single kid that way. I don't think the education system is like they have a budget strong enough, even here, to sustain all of that. So, entertainment is a way to escape what's going on in your head. It's like it's like drugs. It's supposed to numb what's inside of you, but if it's done properly, it's supposed to make you feel something. And in this situation, it compelled the people. I don't think it was just kids. But it compelled these people to do something about it because they probably heard or saw examples within the documentary that say, that's how they did it. I'm gonna do the same thing.
Copycats.
Right?
Exactly. Now, this might make me feel make me look like a bit of a goof, but the first question when you said, when Mike was saying, you know, how do you prevent suicide? And the first thing in my mind, I was like, don't do it. You know what I mean? But that's like the very simple, basic, first approach. So obviously, I'm not gonna be insensitive to that regard. What I did feel I got a lot out of the article and so on and so forth is that I feel like it's generational. Yeah. Okay, because I feel like once again that this generation is highly, I don't even know if it's a word, influenceable or whatever. They could be influenced very easily. There's a sense of fragility, you know what I mean, that a TV show can influence someone, like you said, who's already on the brink, but it's a TV show that brings them over the hump. You know what I mean? And at the same time, like you said, like Netflix, it's like Eminem, right? Where Eminem will rap and say, "Listen, am I the one who's responsible for Columbine because of my raps? You know what I mean? Because of my rhymes, etc., etc." Netflix is putting it out there. They're addressing a real thing. People don't like raw. They don't like gritty, in your face, real. We live in a society, I feel, where a lot of people, they have a hard time differentiating between reality and entertainment, right? But that's exactly like the Instagram and the other social media things of the world, right? They see someone on social media, they see, they're like, oh my god, I want to be like that. And then that person, like, look at people who looked at Anthony Bourdain. You looked at his IG, you're like, yo, this dude is living the life. And then you hear, oh, he committed suicide. You're like, what? I don't understand. Like we were talking about in the Dave Chappelle thing. You're like, yo, if this dude is committing suicide, and the next dude who has way more on his plate that you would think he wants to commit suicide doesn't, you're like, whoa. So yes, there's levels to mental health and so on and so forth. I completely get that, but I don't think it's Netflix's. No, it's not. It's Netflix's responsibility if they put out a TV show. That means that you would have to be mad at every music video that showed a pretty girl. You'd have to be mad at every exercise commercial that showed a guy with abs, because it would always make someone feel some type of way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I do feel like people are. You're talking about the this generation, right? Most people spend more time on their phones than they do with others, like socializing. So naturally, as human beings, we're meant to belong to a group, and we're meant to like physically socialize because we feel safe that way. If you're only socializing on social media, on your phone, the more time you get to spend by yourself, the more the demons in your head you have to entertain,
Yeah.
right? But the busier you get doing stuff and interacting with people, doing other stuff, you don't have time to think about all the bad stuff. It happens to anybody. Like if like think about your dad, right? He won't stop moving ever. Because it's like to them, stop moving. It's like they're just gonna die.
Yeah.
So like it's like a shark. A shark.
Yeah.
As soon as a shark stops swimming, it dies. Right? It sinks. It drowns. But it's the same thing. If you're not doing much, and all you're thinking is feeding the bad thoughts that's in your mind. All you're doing is feeding that. Then eventually something's gonna give. But like kids and even regular folks, adults have to entertain themselves other ways by getting with others. Like, what are the chances? Okay, this is gonna be bad. I was gonna say, what are the chances of a group of people feeling depressed, getting together, and killing themselves? But history has shown that it happens.
Possible,
But were they depressed or were they convinced?
Yeah, they're convinced.
Yeah,
by,
so they weren't necessarily. They might have had mental health already.
Yeah,
but I see what you mean. I see when you get together with a group of people, like the likelihood that you just are all feeding off of each other in terms of depressed. I guess unless there's like a support group,
support group or an almighty leader.
Yeah, you know what? I would love to see like studies on depression rates and support groups like AA and all those things. Like, does it actually help,
or does
like,
it keep the person?
Because misery loves company, huh?
It is true.
So I'm curious.
I feel like this article and this situation is opening up, like you said, the education system don't have the necessary resources to deal with such things like that, and it opens up another question in sense that our children or this generation spending too much time by themselves.
Yeah,
I don't think this article is really showed that maybe Netflix should be taking more responsibility in terms of their original content. I think this really looks at our society at right now in terms of what our youth are doing. Our youth are spending more time on the phone, less time with other children or other youth, and our
physically.
education, physically. Yeah. And that's the thing. Back in the day, physically, if you're out there, you want to know where your friends are, you want to talk to your friend, you jumped on your bike and you rolled down the street and you said what up to your friend. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because you couldn't sit on the phone because that was the only phone in the house. You didn't have a cell phone.
Get off the damn phone.
Get off the phone. Yeah. Or the other line picks up and be like, "What's up?
Get off, mommy, hang up. I got it.
You have kids sitting in front of TVs. You have kids sitting in front of screen. They're on screens all the time. Yeah. And the thing is, they're even on screens when they're in class. The cell phones are not banned from class. I don't even understand why there hasn't been something in the States or certain places why there hasn't been a device that locks off the phone to only receive internal calls.
Yeah,
there's been in certain places. Some places. Yeah.
And that should be, because at the end of the day, like he really popped up something. Roberto is like, our education system doesn't have the resources to the point where even in some schools they don't have certain after curriculum activities because they just can't afford them. You know, and then we're always in our society we're looking to point the blame. But we're never trying to point the blame at the source of the situation. The source of the situation, if you ask me, why you see these kids, the suicide rates popping off, going higher, it's not what they're watching on TV. Yes, they may have had a little bit of that, feeling down, feeling like they don't have a place. But the problem is our children or the youth have too much time and not any way to constructively use that time.
That's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Another one is the parents are soft as fuck. Right? Like, think about it. I think dealing with a little bit of adversity strengthens you up.
Of course.
If you're dealing with some adversity and you know mommy and daddy are gonna come and save the day every time, then you lose that hope for yourself, right? You're like, oh, I'm gonna do it to show them. I'm gonna do it for whatever reason. But just like you're saying about Dave Chappelle, if you go through some hard shit and you come out of it in one piece, then you know that, okay,
you're laughing.
Exactly. You know that if something else happens, you just gotta weather the storm and things are gonna be okay. But if your parents are always in your face saying, Johnny, are you okay? Are you okay, Johnny? Oh, I got this. I'm gonna go talk to your teacher for you. Oh, I'm gonna talk to the bully. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. You're living for the kid. Then the kid never develops that inner strength to prevail. You know, to survive. Like, how many of like the inner city kids actually go off and kill themselves?
Not too many.
They might kill each other to try to survive. You know, like I even hate saying that, but just to show you their strength and resolve are. But in suburbia, kids are so bored and they're so incapable of living for themselves because their parents put them in those situations, right? Like, I gotta say, I'm guilty of that sometimes too. Like, I'm like, yo, I'm not gonna raise my kids as tough as I had.
You guys are monsters. You guys
No, you're Elmo.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
you sitting with some Cookie Monster and you're like,
we got training. So basically, I do feel like kids need to go through adversity. They need to know that they have to depend on themselves. If they know and they have time to depend on themselves, they're not gonna be like they're not gonna let it go because they tend to realize their inner value.
Yeah.
You know,
I completely agree with that.
Bam.
But Netflix to me is not to blame. Netflix, I love your original content. Keep doing what you do.
I think everybody is to blame to some extent because, like, think about some of the music okay, I'll talk about some of the music I listen to, some of the movies I've watched. Some of them do have an influence on my actions. Like I think about like Scarface, right? I think about Goodfellas, right? So depending on the situation I'm dealing with, I am dipping into that resource of Al Pacino or Joe Pesci, right? Like they do influence my actions one way or another.
I understand that there's influence there.
I don't know.
No,
I don't know. Sometimes.
well, not to do harm to yourself though.
Well,
at least not physically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I'll say I wouldn't be like Latimer and the program. You let me on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But some people might be like,